We humans, we tend to be binary, and we like kind of black and white. We like 1 and 0. We like, oh, aging. Okay, well, let's find one solution, like silver bullet. Human biology is so complex that it's extremely unlikely that one solution to aging or age-related disease exists.
Yeah, it's been a while. How you been?
Very good. And look, obviously, book was 3 years journey. So it was just a lot of fun, speaking to, all the people, see the differences of opinion, looking at longevity technology companies. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I remember it was just, you were starting to know when the date would be last year when we spoke.
Yeah.
But I was excited about it when we talked about it, particularly because, we can just get started right now. Actually, like we can just kind of jump right into it if you want. Well, one of the things that was exciting, because I realized that when we spoke last time, we talked a lot about thinking big, investing, common traits of successful leaders. And then almost like at the end, we just kind of teased the book, but then we just didn't have enough time to really go over it. I'm like, oh man, this was the stuff that I really wanted to talk about, which is the stuff around longevity and all that stuff. So timing wise, this is great because now we can just focus 100% on the book and longevity and technology, which is stuff that I really love. So talk about like the journey, like what was the process of writing the book that, it was a 3-year journey, as you mentioned. What was the process like? What was the research method like? Talk to me about the journey.
Yeah. So for everyone, well, first of all, if I can recommend, if you haven't done kind of book writing, I would recommend everyone to start doing that. I mean, obviously, it's a huge undertaking, but these days the minimum viable product for the book is very different, and you can do something like in a year time, and you can self-publish this on Amazon. It's just an amazing effort just because of the length of it. For a self-published book, it's probably somewhere around the year. For if you're doing your book with a publisher, this is what I've done. It's usually up to 2.5, 3 years. So it's just amazing. We're living in a world where our attention span is lower than attention span of the fish in the bowl, literally. So pre-smartphones, we had attention span of probably 15 seconds, we humans. And fish in the bowl had 8.
Wow.
After invention of smartphone and the massive adoption of it, our attention span is actually 7 seconds, and fish in the bowl still has 8. So, well, we're living in a world where every 7 seconds we're trying to switch our attention. So taking 1 year or 3 years undertaken, it's just amazing discipline and a lot of realization that you can get through that. So that's point number one. Point number two, it's just amazing way to organize your thinking, your experience, and your practical knowledge that you want to share with the audience. It's not like sometimes we're doing something like a profession or hobby or passion or work for decades. And we become so pregnant, as I say, we become so engaged into that. So it's just very difficult to, be on a distance and retain or develop like a broad view of the industry or the sector or the business or the theme that you're in. So it's just an opportunity to go on the top of the mountain and just oversee and structure your thinking and your experience. So that's been amazing on that front. Third, book was amazing door opener. So I obviously knew a lot of people whom I interviewed for the book, but it was just an amazing opportunity to start and arrange the conversation with some of the great minds of this world. So for example, I obviously knew who George is. It's just an amazing academic, the man behind sequencing human genome, but I had an opportunity to speak to him. I had an opportunity to interview Bob Langer, the man behind Moderna. It was right in the middle of this whole Moderna vaccine story. So that's been amazing as well. And people call him like the Edison of medicine. So he's behind a lot of inventions in the medicine and the healthcare, in the fundamental science about human health. Or I had an opportunity to discuss human avatars with guess whom? The man behind Avatar movie, Peter Jackson, who worked with David Cameron on Avatar. He worked on Lord of the Rings, Hobbit movies. So, well, it's just been an amazing opportunity to share conversations and share thoughts with so many great people. And finally, the book writing thing is a great thing to teach you about some of the things that in your life will be given to you through the long-term horizon and long-term effort. So it's just a huge discipline on doing something day by day, month by month, without necessarily seeing the outcome of your work. So it's I know you just had a conversation with Greg McKeown, a good friend of mine, the author of Effortless and Essentialism, two great books. And in one of the chapters in his latest book, he just talks about, like, when you have a massive undertaking, the massive target, you just need to do something day by day, like literally push yourself not to think beyond 1 day or 1 week horizon, to not to be scared by how fundamental your goal is. So it's on all fronts, it's been amazing undertaking. And like, I'm father of 4. So if you hear a noise on the background, this is going to be my kids. As an investor, I always say I'm a founder of diversified portfolio of 4 kids. But it's just been amazing on that front that you can just discipline yourself into the whole process and learn a lot through that.
Well, let's dig into the book. So the book is called The Science and Technology of Growing Young. And again, it's a 3-year journey of people you've spoken to, some of the top researchers, some of the top scientists around longevity. The thing that immediately got me hooked was living to 200 years old isn't science fiction anymore. So let's go into kind of and you broke it down into the near horizon, and then you broke it down to the far horizon. What are the differences between the two, and what were some of the thought process behind, the near horizon versus for far horizon, and what are the lifespans for each of those?
Yeah. So when I talk about longevity, and longevity became such a confusing space recently. So today you hear you need to do like a stem cell injections. Then a week later you hear like FDA still hasn't improved the massive use of stem cells, and you should just delay that process and that decision as well. And the same happening with a lot of things like lifestyle interventions, early diagnostic, how to treat particular diseases, is it lifestyle or medication, etc. So what I wanted to bring is just a little bit of organization and this whole thinking, how we think about human longevity. And you're right, I'm talking about near horizon of longevity. So these are technologies which are going to be available to us in the next 10, 15 years. And in the book, I also have the last 2 chapters is about far horizon of longevity. And like these are technologies and scientific breakthroughs that will help us to live longer in 25, 50 years from now. But there's something very important in a bonus chapter of the book called Who Wants to Live Forever, quoting Freddie Mercury. And it is about what we can do now. So whatever we discuss, we all need to realize that there's this number of things that we can actually implement to our life today and take back responsibility and control over our health and the health of our planet as well, actually. So there's many things that we can do today to avoid early death. And this is what we have been doing as human beings for many centuries. And if you do that, you can easily live to 90 or even 100 healthy and happy years. And this is a combination of the current technologies and breakthroughs in medicine, which are available, and lifestyle changes like diet, sleep, early diagnostic of cancer, heart disease, diabetes as well. So if you and your audience are interested in that, we can always discuss that. But now let's go in a new brave world of technology. Well, by the way, the importance of doing these things now is that you can stay, as I call, on longevity bridge. So your body and your mind are going to be in healthy and happy conditions. So then in 10, 15 years time, when we reach the point and we can enjoy all these longevity breakthroughs technologies, your body is actually worth extending its resource. So that's very important. Like what you can do today. Then,
yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Sergey. When you say 10 to 15 years, because is that something where the technology is going to be available, just it's viable as a technology, or are you talking about it's going to be mass adopted from a cost perspective that most people in developed worlds can start to afford?
Yeah, so that's the second one. So all of these technologies and scientific breakthroughs and scientific research that I'm going to be talking about is already in the pipeline today. Well, this is where we invest through my Longevity Vision Fund. So that's extremely important to understand that this is not science fiction. This is something that we're currently developing in startups or in the labs. And I'm talking about massive adoption of it. So then, well, let's speak about near horizon of longevity. Again, so far what we've done, we've been increasing the average lifespan on Earth or in developed countries just by avoiding early death. So literally, if you look at the graph which shows average lifespan on the planet, it did increase by a factor of two times, from 35, 40 years to 75, 80 years today. And it's in a course of 100 years, okay? Wow. So this has already happened. Well, the issue is, if you look at the different graph, which is the maximum lifespan on Earth, it was always around 120 years. So we still haven't been able to break the sound barrier of 120, to be precise, 122 years, because of this beautiful French woman who died around 20 years ago at the age of 122. So if today's technology and today's science is helpful to just moving the statistical average, avoiding early death, the technologies of near horizon of longevity will be helpful for us to break this sound barrier of 122 years. And when people ask me, Sergey, what are the most important, what are the most interesting technologies that we're investing in through Longevity Vision Fund, and what are the most promising things on the horizon, on the near horizon of longevity, I'm always talking about three things. One is gene editing and gene therapy. And we made enormous progress in the last 30 years. 30 years ago, it took United States $3 billion and 13 years to sequence human genome. They even thought just putting project on hold in the first 2 years, because in the first 2 years, they've managed to decode only 1% of the human genome. So they kind of thought they will never be able to complete it in the next 50 years, okay? But then this massive exponential development in increase in computing power made it possible. So again, remember 30 years ago, it was $3 billion and 13 years. Right now, just a few hours and $200. You even have a kid's toy, like a toy kit for our kids, when you can buy for I think it costs $170, and you can actually modify genetic code of the bacteria in this kit.
Wow.
So this is how far we went. And I do think that gene editing and gene therapy are fundamentally different way for us to approach human health. We already know.
For people that don't know anything about gene editing or gene therapy, why is this one of the most important things that you guys are focusing on in the near horizon? What is gene editing?
Well, first of all, a lot of the diseases that we have and we suffer from, specifically in the later stage of our life, have we've been genetically disposed to have them. So there's a number of diseases which have genetic nature. So that's one. Two is we are genetically predisposed to start aging after we finish our reproductive period of our life, right? So in the age of 30, 40, 45, depending on your health and genetic predisposition, the aging process starts in our body. And if you influence all the genes which are responsible for aging, and right now we already know almost all 3,000 genes in our DNA, which are responsible for aging process. So you can actually influence the aging, and you can influence the level of your health in almost in any period of your life. And if you look at some of the animals on the planet, some of the animals don't have aging. So they born and they die exactly in the same health condition. They obviously die because of external shocks, either like competition or hurricane or anything else. But they don't die from aging or age-related diseases. They're obviously much simpler creatures, but we don't need to age like in terms of our overall biological setup. It's not really obvious why we need to age, right? Apart from the clear logic from Mother Nature that we're living in a world where resources are not abundant, and once we've done reproduction, we can basically done. That's like the end of value.
Which creatures are these?
Well, I cannot really pronounce them. Their name, it's a long Latin names, but some kind of the worms. Okay. Which live under the earth. Some of the sea creatures, they live up to 500 years, and some of the creatures, turtles can live to 200 or 300 years, but they still have aging, but like a slower way of aging. And some of the sharks and some of the whales can live, specifically the one lives in like a northern part of the ocean or Atlantic. They can live up to 200 or 300 years. So it's not like, we all just need to die at the age of 80, okay? It's just we genetically programmed to do that. So coming back to my earlier point that we already know almost all 3,000 genes which are responsible for aging process. And if we will find the opportunity to modify them to influence them, switch them on or off, well, that's just a great opportunity to extend like a period of our health. And that's why we're always talking about health span, not necessarily lifespan. Because, I mean, you don't want to have low quality life for the longer term. We're striving both, for not only for quantity, but also for quality of your life. Well, that's why our ability to modify our genes and use products of gene therapies are extremely important. And if you look at centenarians, and these are the people who lived 100 and beyond, 70% of their longevity and their ability and talent, if you want, to live beyond 100 years is genetically predetermined. So they just have all these 3,000 genes who are responsible for aging tend to work a little bit better in their body. So that's the importance of gene editing. In terms of gene therapy, 20 to 25 years ago, gene therapy were available only to a handful of people. They literally had nothing to lose because they had very rare and dangerous genetic disease. Well, right now, we're all participating, hopefully in a positive, I do think it's positive, global experiment of gene therapy, because Moderna, AstraZeneca, some of the other vaccines against COVID are the outcome of gene therapy. We just don't realize that, but this is the reality. This is how far we went. And remember, I think it was last year, I was looking at one article, and it says Moderna vaccine has been developed in the course of 2 days. Imagine, obviously they did a lot of work before that, but this is to show how simple is that now to sequence genome of the COVID and develop some sort of therapy, gene therapy that are helpful to fight this very dangerous virus. So that's
I
how
see. To create it, you're saying it's relatively quick. It was the testing of other, so that it's safe for everyone. That's what took a long time.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, but like the whole development process like took 2 days. Crazy. But again, as we say, it's just a lot of hard work on the science and technological front, years or even probably decades before that. But again, that's how fast we've developed. And just look at how successfully we developed the capabilities like testing capabilities, vaccine capabilities, telemedicine capabilities to respond to COVID external shock. So that's very important. Again, so if you look at the near horizon of longevity and you ask me the question, like, what are the most promising there? What we should expect in the next 10, 15 years? Number one, and super promising, gene editing and gene therapy. I actually believe that in 20 years from now, the biggest obstacles for us to embrace, enjoy, and use our new capabilities in terms of gene editing is not going to be in the field of science, not going to be in the field of technology. It's going to be in the field of human ethics and regulation, because this is what is most important today. People don't trust. People are full of fears about gene editing because we've seen a world where inequality is always growing. Well, that's why people assume that gene therapy and gene editing capabilities will make kind of rich people even more rich and poor people even more poor. Well, that's the biggest obstacle. So if you're interested, we can come back to this. There's a separate chapter in my book called Morality of Immortality, which talks about ethical choices, like how we need to change the world to embrace the idea of longer living in this world. But then. So number one, gene editing, gene therapy. Number two is organ regeneration. Think about old car. Like if you want to extend the resource of the old car, all you're doing is you're just replacing the spare parts. Obviously, this is a little bit more complex process that I'm currently explaining it. But just to simplify, if we will be able to change the biological view of human body to more engineering view of human body and mind, and we will be able to replace and amend and regenerate some of the organs in our body, this will obviously expand our lifespan and health span as well, and increase the quality of our life. And just to give you an example, remember we used Moderna as example for gene therapy. So I want to use the other example from our, we didn't invest in Moderna and Longevity Vision Fund, and right now is extremely expensive, very famous company. We invested in a company called Genesis. They based in Pittsburgh. And what they do, they help our body to regenerate organs inside our body. Think about liver. Some of the people are suffering from number of liver diseases where their liver is not functioning. And in fact, and right now it's solved through donor transplantation, so organ transplantation. So 170,000 people in US only are waiting are on a waiting list for a donor transplant. And it's a huge problem because not a lot of people want to donate their organs. And obviously, it's like, I think it's 17 people died every day waiting for their liver or heart to arrive. Okay. So, and it's very expensive surgery. So it costs $600,000 to $800,000. And the opportunity for success is not 100%. So what Genesis has done is they take donor liver and they split it in 50 to 75 pieces. So that's already an opportunity to help with one donor liver to help not one recipient, but 50 to 75 people. And through very simple laparoscopic operation, they put it in your lymph node, and your body in the course of 3 to 6 months regrows a new liver inside your body. Well, that's amazing. And this liver, well, funny enough, supports the function of your liver, which is not working properly today. That's amazing. And they've done a lot of trials with primates, with dogs, with pigs, with mice. And early this year, they got FDA approval to start human trials. So they're currently working with a number of people who are in a terminal stage of their liver disease to help them to survive and significantly improve the quality of their life. This is amazing. This is just one of the examples of what we're doing in the organ regeneration and organ replacement space. And there's more avenues to that, like 3D bioprinting of organs. This can happen as well, and this technology is currently in development. Or using different biomaterials to regrow organs. And this is done by Martin Rothblatt and United Therapeutics as well. So I do think we should expect some promising outcomes in the organ regeneration space, if not now, in 5, 10, 15 years from now. So this is my priority area number 2 for near horizon of longevity.
Got it. Are you listing these in order in terms of where you see the biggest potential? So gene editing and therapy, you see the
that's a great
upside?
question, Sean. Yeah, I like your question, because we humans, we tend to be binary. And we like kind of black and white. We like 1 and 0. We like, aging. Okay, well, let's find one solution, like silver bullet. Human biology is so complex that it's extremely unlikely that one solution to aging or age-related disease exists. Because if there's going to be a factor of 1, then it's either Mother Nature in the form of evolution, or it's human minds in the form of science and technology would obviously find the answer. So it's very likely to be a combination of things. To extend our lifespan and our health span, to influence our health, we always need to look at the complexity of things, like combination of undertaking or interventions or changes that we need to do. So it's not either or, it's just combination of things. And then thing number 3 is, I call it longevity in the pill. In 5, 10 years from now, we're going to have completely new, like a class of drugs, which going to be focusing on the overall aging processes in our body, which will help us to fight all of the, I call them killer diseases at once. And 90% of deaths after the age of 50 happens because of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and neurodegenerative diseases, things like Alzheimer's or dementia. So right now, it's just not possible, because if you look at the current regulation, you can register a drug against disease, but you cannot register the drug against number of disease or against aging. So things are changing there. And not only with human intelligence, but also with artificial intelligence as well. Artificial intelligence, we invested in 2 companies which use artificial intelligence to compress the drug development cycle. Because today, to develop a drug in the US, it costs $2.6 billion on average because of the very high failure rate, and it's 12 years on average.
Wow.
So that's very complex and very expensive process. That's why we always see an inflation of the drugs prices. But artificial intelligence and reuse and repositioning of some of the drugs that we already have today on Earth will help us to address the aging and improve and increase our health span. Like, we already have a few candidates for that. Like the very old drug called metformin. It's a diabetic drug, and it's been in use for probably another last 50 or 60 years on Earth. So it's a very safe profile. Right now, it's used to fight diabetes, but apparently the side effect of it that we still need to check in a human trial is that it can extend your lifespan and health span by another 2 or 3 or 5 years. So we're right in the beginning of huge trial here in US. It's called TAME trial, and it's organized and supported by a very good friend of mine, professor from Albert Einstein School of Medicine near Barzilai. So in 5 years from now, when we start this trial, we'll have an opportunity to check if metformin is a real longevity drug. But it's going to be more and more metformins or more and more AI-developed drugs on the planet, which will address the aging and all these diseases which comes with aging at their core.
How do you really speed up the development cycle of, because you mentioned even with Moderna, the problem is not the speed to make it. The problem is the testing process and really to get it to market is really what takes a while. How do we speed that up? Is there a method of doing that so that we can get to fast iteration?
Yeah, so you're right. The compressing the feedback cycle is super important. So I'm not this specialist in drug development. I'm an investor, right? We invest in 10 companies a year. But like in my humble opinion, what you do is a number of things. Number one, your initial, when you try to find the different targets, like a different proteins which will work, or different chemical substances that might work against this disease or against this decision, against this disease or against this problem in the human body, it takes usually around 2 years. So your group of scientists would need to review all the papers written on this subject and bring you 10, 20 different molecules or chemical substances, formulas of them, which you need to test if you do have a hope to influence this particular indication. So it usually takes 2 to 3 years. Artificial intelligence can go through the repository of researchers, and whatever has been written on the research side, on academic side, in proprietary libraries or big pharma, even in the internet, and see, well, this particular indication most frequently has been indicated with work or the outcome of work of this particular chemical substances. So you'll have an ability to generate hypotheses like what are the 10 or 15 or 20 things that you need to test on a later stage if you want to tackle this particular disease or this particular indication. So that's already compression. And they've been able to compress this first part of drug development cycle from 2 years to 2 or 3 months. So that's amazing. I mean, you've been able to develop like sophisticated mathematical model, computer model of the human body and human biology. And some of the testing you can actually do by modeling the potential outcome and positive and negative effects of this chemical substance on human body in computer model first, before you go in through human trial. So that's the second piece. And third, in a human trial, you can use so-called biological clocks. And biological clocks, in very simple terms, is your ability of your computer or your science to measure your biological age, so like a level of your health. So my calendar age is 49. My biological age is 43 because my body and mind is younger than my whatever it says in my passport. And well, I can tell you that there's a number of biological clocks that we developed in the last 7 to 8 years. One of the famous one called epigenetic biological clock from Steve Hort, professor from California. It's just a set of biomarkers, for example, that you can use from your blood work or assessing the state of your epigenome. And these clocks will point out to a number of indicators which describe your health. And this is very different from human trials that we had decades ago, when you need to have a journal, how a person feels, do testing or diagnostic or analysis every quarter or so. So you rightly talk about compression of the feedback cycle within the human trials. And this also applies to the way we develop our drugs and we test our drugs. So this is just 3 examples how artificial intelligence and development of new technologies can compress the drug development cycle.
Man, that's really exciting. And you see that being like a 10 to 15 year horizon. So where it'll be available for most people. And are you saying then that because the near horizon, the goal is 150, that beyond fatal accidents and cancers that maybe we haven't been able to cure yet, that most people would be able to live past at least 100? Is that kind of the vision?
I think majority of the younger generation which lives today on the planet will have an opportunity to live to 100 healthy and happy years. But Sean, what I want you to understand, it's a very long-term process, because we're talking about 7+ billion people on the planet. So before we move the statistical average, it's going to be a lot of hard work and probably just few generation change. Like I'm 49. Before you guys will be able to check if I can break this 122 years barrier, I just need to survive for another 73 years. And God knows what will happen in 73 years. It's like discussing today when you and I back in 1950, right after World War II, right? So in a way, I just want to be really upfront about this whole. The purpose of the book is just not to give you prescription. The purpose of the book is to tell you a number of things and start your thinking process. One, we're going to be living much longer than we expect. Second, if you want to enjoy your years, it's time to take responsibility and control over your health right now, because it's a very complex thing and it's a very long-term process to sustain your health. Third, we are at unique intersection of scientific breakthroughs and technological inventions for the whole human history. First time in human history, we will be able to influence and break the sound barrier of 122 years, okay? So this is not for you just to put like a date in calendar in 15 years from now and check Sergey is right or wrong. This is for you to make some important conclusions and takeaway about your personal health strategy, about your personal family strategy, about your personal financial strategy today, okay? And so this is extremely important. And then this whole horizons are just to organize our thinking about what is awaiting for us in 10, 15 years from now. But some of the things they really real, like, we just talk about Moderna gene therapy vaccine. That's amazing. I just had mine back in June 2021. Or metformin, this diabetes drug. It's been here for 50 plus years. In fact, I just had a chat with Nir. He told me that metformin for the trial is cheaper than placebo tablet. Placebo, right? Like something which doesn't have the chemical substance, and it's a sugar pill with it, and it's used in the groups to check whether people just respond psychologically to the fact that they're treated, or there's like real chemical substance actually treating them a certain way. So placebo for the same trial for testing metformin on humans is more expensive than metformin itself. Imagine
Crazy.
that. So, and again, it's well, listen to things, and this is the beauty of technology. We have our limiting mindset, which is like, okay, well, they will develop this, but it's going to be available for the people who can afford to pay for that. Liquid biopsy, like today's test, which help you to do early diagnostic of, well, say colon cancer, is $100 or $200. My glucose monitor right here, I bought it in Europe. It's $60. My goodness, and I can enjoy for like 14 days to see the level of my glucose and how I respond to different type of food. And because I'm in Italy, it's a different type of wine as well. But I'm trying to limit this because wine is not necessarily good for your health. So like once or two times a week is okay, but not, it shouldn't be that frequent. So, well, that's the beauty. We always think it's not going to be available to us. It is already available. I've been doing my colonoscopy every 2 years before this year to check early stage colon cancer. But what I've done on June 8th, and this is the date of my annual checkup that I've done in Human Longevity Center in San Diego, California, they said, Sergey, combination of full body MRI and Cologuard, this is the test to do early diagnostic of colon cancer, is comparable. So you don't need to do your colonoscopy this year. We just check through, full body MRI and this test. Well, that's amazing. And my full body MRI for second year in a row has been pre-analyzed by artificial intelligence. And then it's human intelligence, human doctor sit down with me and discuss my risk. That's amazing. Human doctors are always busy. They under stress. They have enormous pressure to handle. And artificial intelligence can do it in seconds. So combination of human and artificial intelligence in some of the cancer types can identify up to 98 or 99% of cancer cases at early stage, again, at early stage. And human doctor alone, performing under time pressure, which they always have, can be as successful as 38 to 50% of cases. If they have more time, of course, they will do a better job. But time is always insufficient on the human side. So this integration between artificial intelligence and human intelligence will help us to identify early stage of cancer. And these days, if you do early diagnostic of cancer, your recovery rates can be up to 90 or 100% for some of the mainstream, as I call, cancer types. That's amazing. That's just amazing opportunity to increase not only quantity, but also the quality of our life. And this actually brings us to the far horizon of longevity. So technologies
let's talk about
going to be available to us in 25 to 50 years from now. So, but before we talk about this, what should I say? I'm waiting, like many of you, I'm waiting for this with combination of fear and excitement. It's not that, I'm waiting for the world of human avatars. I'm afraid of artificial intelligence and its exponentially increasing power as well. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't discover this whole beauty of integration between man and machine. So 25, 50 years from now, world going to be completely different because of genetic editing and gene editing and gene therapy and a lot of different technologies and scientific breakthroughs from near horizon of longevity. We will be able to redefine ourselves as humans. So I'm talking about world of human avatars. We can exist in the form of robotic avatars. We can exist in the form of virtual avatar. Our brain going to be integrated with artificial intelligence or with computers, similar to what is done today by Elon Musk in Neuralink. And if you think about this, think about people who are suffering today from neurodegenerative diseases. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this latest movie with Anthony Hopkins called The Father. Amazing movie. This whole movie is done through the eyes of a person who is suffering from dementia. It's really difficult movie, and I was crying a couple of times just looking how how suffering is that. And if we support this kind of people who are suffering from that with artificial intelligence, who will help them to be happy in this world, we can improve quality of their last 5 or 10 years on Earth. So that's just example of that. Then what? We all going to be full of sensors. I'm full of sensors today. So I have Whoop. I have Apple Watch. I use my Oura Ring to measure my sleep. I'm talking about glucose continuous glucose monitor, right? Week after June 8, after my annual checkup, I wear Zeo patch right here on my chest. And what it does, it takes continuous electrocardiogram, work of my heart, 24/7 for 7 days in a row, and put everything on chip. Then I post this chip to the company who invented that. And right now I have much better understanding of the risks associated with my heart and vessel system. Let's just pro forma of what will happen in 20, 25 years from now. We're all going to be full of sensors, similar to Internet of Things, where all the things around us interconnected. The world going to be consisting of Internet of Bodies. We're all going to be full of sensors, which will help us to maintain the health of our body and mind. And we're all going to be interconnected to artificial intelligence, to computing power, to distributed network, which can detect the small anomalies in the work of our body, and therefore will give us an opportunity to treat this as early as possible and to stay in healthy and, again, happy state as well. What else? We're going to be, there's number of companies developing nanobots, like a small robots nano size, which will flow in our blood and can fight cancer cells, for example, or clean whatever they need to clean inside our body. So there's just a lot of fascinating things happening in this thing. But again, the most important idea and a barrier for us to enjoy the far horizon of longevity is our ethical choices. As I say, I just done a TEDx talk called Morality of Immortality, and the idea of this talk that we have created technology to extend our life, but we haven't created life that we want to extend. World is full of problems today, and we need to solve it.
Yeah. I mean, so before we go into that, so in terms of far horizon, so do you see, I mean, I guess at a certain point, we instead of dying from diseases or fatal accidents, we live long enough where cancer just starts to evolve, right, in our bodies. Do you see that as really the main thing that's going to be needed to be cured for us to be preventing death? Or are there other factors where new technology needs to come in that could potentially kill us if we live to beyond 200 or 250?
Yeah. So if we really think about far horizon of longevity, I do see two avenues, and they're not mutually exclusive. We can do it in parallel. We need to address, and you mentioned both of them. So one is influencing the aging process, which starts in our body. Some people say, some scientists say it starts with day one when you were born on Earth, right? Some people say it started roughly around 40, 45 years. At least, I'm looking at my body, and this is my observation. And if we are to influence the start of the aging process inside our body, or we switch off, genes which are responsible to start this biological kind of killing program for us, or if we will influence genes which are responsible for our longevity and for us to stay healthy and happy for the longer term, well, that's the opportunity for us to extend our resource on Earth. So that's one. Two, the second avenue is integration between humans and machines in different forms. It can be taken in the forms of robotic avatars or replaceable organs if they are industrially produced, or supplementation of our human intelligence with artificial intelligence as well. Like we've seen, I think it was in South Korea, this is a story in my book when we talk about human avatars. They've been able to recreate the daughter of South Korean woman who died 3 years before this moment. She died in the age of 5. Mother were really suffering that, and she worked for 2 years with virtual reality studio to recreate her daughter in a virtual environment, and they met for her birthday. Look, this is very dramatic video. I think it's 8 minutes, and you just need to Google or to go YouTube and search South Korean mother met her daughter, blah blah blah. But as a father of 4, I couldn't stop crying. For me, I watched like for the first minute, and that's it. But this is happening today. And we've seen a number of companies who are working on creating human avatars, either in the form of robots, like you've seen in Avatar movie, or in the form of virtual avatars. So, well, I can tell you that actually reproducing ourselves in the virtual world is much cheaper and more efficient. So it's just very likely that
that'll be in the form of like wearing a virtual reality headset, I guess, where you can, you're just in a different world.
Yeah. Well, this is what you do like in robotic avatars, but like in virtual, it's just decoupling our consciousness, and for this to be alive even after our physical death. And some people think that this is very radical, and I do think as well. But in some of the cases, like my grandfather died 25 years ago, and he was an amazing man. He was very influential in terms of making Sergey Young the way I am today. I still would, I'd be delightful to take an opportunity to speak to the virtual avatar of my granddad for like 1 hour every month or so. So there's a number of uses that we can think of, and we can develop.
Though, like, how do you get the personality quirks? How do you really decode, the sense of humor that someone has, the knowledge that they had before? I mean, these are things that has to be done beforehand, right?
I think we're just overestimating our complexity and uniqueness. Like I know a lot of famous people because everyone wants to live forever or for the long term. So I end up with, like, when I started to do longevity, I get an opportunity to know a lot of billionaires, a lot of famous people. And again, my job and my mission is to bring affordable and accessible version of longevity to the world. It's not like I'm trying to develop something which would cost millions of dollars and we're going to be available to all of them. I'm more interested about changing 1 billion lives rather than one very expensive or famous life. But when you speak to them, they were like, well, Sergey, when I'm performing I'm doing like 99 or 98 of the things that I'm doing all the time. It's almost like Groundhog Day. They're just repeating the same mantra. And this is what we can expect from them. So I know a lot of people who working on their virtual avatar at the moment. So he or she can replace and support their undertaking. And well, a lot of these people are doing good for the planet. They're changing people's mindset, right? Or entertain them, or touch like the best parts of their soul and their mind and heart to elevate the people, to make them like a better version of themselves through their songs or through their performance or through their coaching, whatever it is. And so think about my resolution for the next year is to develop a virtual avatar for Sergey Young. I can be twice as effective, and first 6 months, he will be on the same podcast. So next time we meet, we're going to see two Sergey Young. We're going to be arguing.
I don't even know if this is the real Sergey Young. How do I know this is really?
Yeah. It is. No, but like, this is the essence of it. And obviously we can always find like a scary part, like a, doomsday scenario of particular technology. But, if I can be speaking in Africa and in Singapore, delivering the same speech about how exciting longevity technologies are, how much money we need to invest in improving people's life and the quality of their life. Well, this is great. And this is where, what I want to try, and this is where I want to experiment.
Yeah. And the idea of being able to create your own virtual avatar is that you're just downloading all the information of content that you have and the voice tones and all this. So the more content you have online that can download from,
of course,
the more accurate. Okay.
Yeah. So this is what they've done with this South Korean girl. They've been working, I think, for 2 years, and they analyzed a lot of content and they created actually a lot of content before her death. It's a very sad story, again, for me as a father, but again, I'm using this to shock you in a way, and just to see how feasible are all these technologies, and they can help a lot of people live longer, and even if we die.
Wow,
and continue to bring like the best things to the world and sharing our best with the world as well.
Wow. And that's something that you think will be affordable for everyone, where while they're still alive, you'll be able to create your own virtual.
Yeah. Like I think in 10, 20 years from now, we're talking about just $100, something like that.
Wow.
Like whatever we invest in is, but we're not necessarily investing in this futuristic, scary thing. We're investing in like early cancer diagnostic, affordable ultrasound diagnostic devices. We are investing in gene therapy platforms, which can help billions of people live healthier life. We're investing in liver organ regeneration technologies like Genesis, the company I mentioned to you. So, well, this is like 80 to 90% of our work and our investment. But obviously, to excite the people, to keep them engaged, to keep your focus, like, oh my goodness, world is changing, so I need to change as well. This is the relatively shocking or exotic examples that I'm using. Okay.
And what about cryonics freezing? Have you, obviously this is like Futurama, this is like people, this is already in the mainstream of people, right? People have these like rumors of, oh, like Walt Disney froze himself. He's in a, chamber somewhere and he's still alive. And same with Larry King. And these are all the celebrities. And so that once technology is available, they'll be able to come alive and do that. What's your opinion on that? Because you obviously have the most information on this.
Yeah, I think cryonic is, like if you think about 30 or 40 years ago, there was like the only hope for you to use cryonic. So probability of us to survive through cryonic procedure because of the scientific and technological aspects of that, and biological aspects of it, is really low. And like, well, that's one. Two, I'm not sure about the ethics of the people like 100 or 200 years ago, whether they will decide to unfreeze people because it's going to be torture for us. It's similar like to bring someone with a time machine, like a person who lived 200 years ago. He or she will just not be capable to absorb the complexity of this world. It's going to be a huge trauma. So I'm not sure like the people from the future will enjoy the opportunity to see like how Sergey Young mind and heart and his mentality worked 200 years ago. But I do think the whole point of cryonic is well, it's not necessarily selfish, but it's just again us overestimating our role in the world. So my example, I'm working on longevity. I don't care whether I can enjoy the benefit of these technologies or not, as long as I'm sure that future generation of people on Earth will benefit from my work, whether it's in investment area or in scientific or in technological areas as well. So I'm trying to solve the big problem for the whole planet, not necessarily trying to preserve myself after the death with the little hope that I'm going to be unfreezed in 200 years from now. But look, I couldn't really complain. I know a lot of people from this field, and they have their little or the huge hope, and this is great. Sometimes you need to have it's almost like a psychological experiment. You need to have a hope that your life will be endless and you can complete a lot of things in life. So I can understand why they're doing that. But technologies are much more advanced today than in the time when cryonic was like a mainstream, was like the only option for you to extend your lifespan.
Okay, you're saying it's like the BlackBerry of today's world.
Just a little bit, yeah, but I say it with a lot of love. Yeah,
of course.
I do think. Well, yeah. So what you're saying is, and I don't want to sound radical, but us replicating ourselves in the virtual environment, it's just going to be available in 10, 20 years from now, and it's going to be mainstream. So it's, I guess this is the way.
But wouldn't that still revolve around, if someone dies at 60 or 70 or 80, to be able to continue to live your virtual world, wouldn't you still have to keep parts of you, like your brain, active so that you can enjoy the virtual side? Or am I missing something? I mean,
yeah, so I think like in 10, 20 years from now, we'll be able to replicate the human brain in just 100% based on computer power. So like no parts of you, apart from you giving an example, like feeding the artificial intelligence algorithm, will be needed after that. Is it life? I don't know. I still want to live in the material environment. Yeah, touch my kids every evening, have food and a glass of Italian red wine with my wife. So I'm not advocating for this, but what I'm saying, we were trying to invest in robotic avatars for the last 3 years. We haven't done any investments there because virtual avenue is such an efficient avenue and such an efficient way to replicate us. So we almost forgot about this whole robotic paradigm, trying to create robots which will behave similar to us.
Have you already invested in a virtual reality company?
Yeah, I'm still look. I don't think it's like a way to help people. I'm trying to help people in material world. Okay, we are all biological objects. Even if I'm telling about a more engineering view of human body and mind. So my goal is to help billion or billions people on the planet to live healthier and happier version of their life, not necessarily to put everyone in the virtual world.
Yeah. Let's talk about the ethics a little bit, because you brought this up before. And, I had this conversation. Are you familiar with Moran Cerf by any chance? Moran Cerf, he's a neuroscientist. But we talked a little bit about the ethics of whether it's good for people to live forever, given the overpopulation issue that we have, given the climate change issues and all the legislations, and there's a number of factors that could come into play that people can't even fathom, right? Like what a world would look like if we had 15 billion people. What are your thoughts around this potential downsides of some people living forever and longer, at least?
Yeah. So what do I think? Well, first of all, I do think it's extremely important. If you ask people in US and UK, and I'm using this country because I've seen the data, 2/3 to 3/4 of the people say no to life extension. They don't want to live longer.
2 to 3 people don't.
Yeah. People don't. Wow. When you ask people like, do you want to add like 10, 20 years to your life? They say no. Well, there's a number of historical reasons why is that, because like the model of aging that we have today is not representative of the model of aging, how we're going to age in the future. But it's okay, they might not understand that, right? This is not their profession or field of interest. But what is happening, and by the way, full disclosure, I'm not a fan of immortality. I do think if you take out the death from the human cycle, we're not going to be humans. We're so driven by fear of death. We're so driven of fear of missing out. Speaking of Patrick McGuinness, the guy, my very good friend and the guy who invented this acronym, that I don't think we should do it. And I actually don't think it's feasible, right? So I'm not a fan of immortality, but I'm a big fan of human life extension in assuming that this is healthy and happy portion of our life, which we gonna be extending. I'm full of dreams. I'm full of plans, okay? I'm full of passion to live not to 85 years, but 120, 150, 200 years. I don't know what's the figure for me gonna be, but again, I'm thinking about the planet more. So then, well, let's talk about ethics first. I'm not concerned about overpopulation. In fact, if you look at the all major studies, the population of Earth, because of the lowering reproduction rates, the population of Earth is going to peak at 10 or 11 billion by 2050, and then it's going to decrease to 8 by the end of this century.
Wow, decrease.
China will lose 600 million people if they don't respond to this demographic crisis, to silver tsunami, and the slowdown in reproduction rates. China will lose 600 million from its population, 1.4 billion to 800 million. And this is the case for almost every country on the planet, on almost all continents, with the exception of African continents or African countries. But they're going to experience the same demographic decline. It's just going to be a little bit later. Okay. So I'm not concerned. My point is, unless we respond to this demographic crisis, it's going to be called empty planet in a number of centuries from now. And it's a huge, just Google a study. It was published in a magazine called Lancet. And it's very simple. You just take your reproductive rates country by country, and you do a simple mathematical model in computer, how this is going to evolve. And it's a population of almost every country are not going to decline after 2050.
Can you dig into a little bit about why that is? Because I do see that happen. Like even in South Korea, there's this big news article that just came out where a lot of people, they're choosing even not to get married in the first place, and people are just not having kids at all, like a lot of the educated folks. So what is the reasoning that's really pushing this?
So people like men and women have more chances with their time. That's and obviously, well, that's like a side effect of urbanization and technologization, like us having access to all these technologies, all these opportunities as well. People choose career, money, different different ways to realize themselves in social terms, in business terms, in self-development terms, rather than looking at families. And if you look at reproduction rates in all the major countries on earth, they well below 2. But like every woman, so like, okay, let me put this, like for every couple, the rates are significantly below 2. Like in Europe, if you look at the majority of countries, they anywhere between 1.3 and 1.5. So like, 2 people by the end of their life will produce only what, 1.3, 1.5 kids in statistical terms. This is what is happening. And this is a very long-term trend. It's continuing, it's accelerating. And again, by the end of this century, it's going to be 8 billion people on the planet. Obviously, with life extension, with influencing our health and increase our health span, we might want to change it. But it's not like we're going to suffer from 15 billion people population.
Now, is that because of that? And so you're assuming that it's going to be, 1.3, let's say, and people are going to live longer. So that kind of ends up balancing out the equation. Is there going to be a period of time where the working population, because as less people are more born and more people get older, there's going to be a bigger group of people that maybe aren't healthy enough to be able to work? Is there any concerns around that in terms of people being able to create enough value in society because of such an older population?
I do believe like every person creates enough value in society. It's up to us to unlock the value of young people, so-called old people, men, women, like whatever your choice is, or whatever your age group is. But obviously the life extension efforts and development of longevity technology will compensate this negative demographic trend for the whole planet. Well, that's clear for me. Am I doing this to fight that? No, my aim is to bring health and happiness to people today, or in 5 or 10 years, not necessarily manage this whole, big figures on a planetary scale.
Right. Okay. So you're just not worried. You feel overpopulation is not going to be a big issue, and the whole focus should be just to see if we can increase the longevity of health, and then we can figure out
so if you always have. If you're in a healthy and happy state, then you are a productive part of the workforce, you're a productive part of society, and you can contribute. And we'll figure out what to do with this contribution. And so that's one on it. That's the challenge on demographic side. Well, the other challenge about resources, and usually people talk about energy, and look what has happened with the cost of renewable energy. It's exponentially decreasing. So I'm not worried about energy. I'm not worried about food. 45% of food in the US goes to waste every day, from supermarkets, our household, from restaurants. So we have enough resources to feed all these people with a high quality diet. The only problem, we're just not really efficient with allocation of these resources. And this is much bigger problem. This is what we need to fix. But then, so how do we need to change the planet? I do think we need to influence inequality, because the world is becoming more and more divided. I actually think longevity technology can be one of the few unifying themes because of the affordable and accessible aspect of that. And what else? Like our social constructs, like marriage, retirement, career, they all been created 100 years ago. Well, obviously, like a family, not 100 years ago, but they were suitable for the world when people were comfortably living 35, 45, like 55 years. But right now, even when we're living like in a world where we live between 75 and 85 years, today, as the average lifespan for developed countries, 2/3 of the marriages go through divorce in the first 5 to 7 years after the date of marriage. Like, is it the time for us to redefine marriage? Can we think about different other modalities where we keep responsibility, even having bigger responsibility, like kids raising partnerships? Is it something that people trying to recreate, but like on their own, without the open dialogue about this on the society, on the government, on the like cross country, on national level? No, we don't. What will happen to our career? Can I have as many careers as decades in my life? I don't know. This whole concept of retirement. So two most dangerous years of your life is the year of your birth and year of your retirement. This is where the highest mortality rates that we have.
Really? Why's that?
Well, like when you retire, you lose the sense of purpose to a certain extent. And remember, retirement is whole binary construct. And as we discussed, we people, we're full of binary thinking, but world is not black and white. But we still have this, I'm either working full time and then I retire, and then it's like zero. You know, I'm irrelevant to my colleagues, to my career, to my company, to my profession. This is not true. We need to redefine this whole retirement thing. And we need to redefine this whole binary full-time employment, zero-time employment concept. You know, people in the age of 50, 60, 70 can be relevant, can be important in a social context and in a business context as well, in a family context as well. So this is what we need to fix as well. So then this is, I call like a social contract. And then finally, and obviously we have a lot of different ethical dilemmas and trade-offs to solve in a field what I call morality of immortality or morality of longer living. This whole relationship with Mother Nature. If you assume you're going to live 70 years, you can just drop the plastic in the ocean or disposable mask and assume that next generation's going to sort it out. But if we're going to live 120, 150 years, we're going to face the consequences of our own actions.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's time to be more responsible for our own actions. And we need to have an open dialogue, like discussion, conversation about this whole, we need to change the paradigm. It's time to take back control of our health, but also health of our planet.
I think that's a great way to close off the conversation, or is around health, because I think all of these things around the future, whether it's 25 years, people that might be listening to this could be 50 or 60, and you know, they may want tips so that they can live long enough to be able to have that, to be able to cross that barrier. Let's talk a little bit about that. This reminds me of my conversation actually with Aubrey de Grey, because I'm sure you're familiar with him, right? He's obviously very big in the longevity space, and he's hilarious, first of all, but he drinks like 6-7 beers a day, and he's got no problems talking about this. And his whole point, first of all, it's hilarious, but his whole thing is that no matter what we do in our daily life, that there's the breakthroughs that we'll have in technology will be so great that the things that we're doing right now are so minuscule that, you know, whatever is going to happen in the future will just overcome and subside all of it. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, first of all, we all love Aubrey, right? And actually the old car metaphor and the notion of changing biological view of human body to engineering view of human bodies comes from Aubrey. Okay, he's a good friend. He's a big supporter of Longevity Vision Fund. And in longevity space, you have two very distinct group of people. And obviously there's someone like undecided or in between. So one like me, I'm just sticking to my healthy routine, you know, day and night. And guys like Aubrey, I mean, they can drink and I'm like, forget it. Or I know a few guys, I couldn't mention their name, like they drink Coca-Cola, you know, all the time. So the sugar drinks. And at a very excessive rate. They were like, Sergey, I mean, we're going to solve this problem in 10, 20 years anyway. Like, why bother? So, but I do bother. If you look at the book, and again, it's called The Science and Technology of Growing Young, and it is a book to cover near and far horizons of longevity. There's a very important chapter there. This chapter, it's called bonus chapter, Who Wants to Live Forever, is actually twice as long as any other chapter in the book. It's right in the end, and it covers our 10 longevity choices. What we should do, what we can do right now, today, to add another 10, 15 healthy and happy years to our life, to stay on longevity bridge, to enjoy and embrace all these technologies and pieces of science when they will be massively available to us in 10, 15 years from now. So just for the sake of time, let me just briefly cover what are the 5 things that we all need to do.
Please.
You need to know that it's not either or, it's just complex of the things. 1, 2, some of them sound boring, but they're very powerful. Okay, so number 1 is your annual checkups. My wife disagrees with me, but I'm always say like the most important day of your life every year is the date of your annual checkup. Because again, if you do early diagnostic of cancer and heart disease, you're going to be living substantially longer, and it's with much better quality of your years. So this is very important. Go to your doctor, go to your healthcare provider, ask for the as comprehensive checkup as possible. This is not a rocket science. This is pretty standard set of procedures. Okay, 1, 2, don't die stupid, or I call it passive longevity. Like tobacco smoking is statistically minus 10 years from your life. Use of seat belts is plus 2 years to your life. Well, this is how safe is that. I mean, if you have an opportunity to be in driverless cars, the driverless cars will reduce mortality rates from car accidents by a factor of 10. And there's so many things that you can do just to live like a safer version of your life without taking unnecessary risk. Like some of the countries, you can have a glass or 2 of wine and you can be still okay for driving. This is bad. Or riding motorcycles is 17 times more mortal, more dangerous than driving a car. Like, I think it's just no-brainer if you want to save your life and improve the quality of it. So number 3 is a diet. And diet is very important. A lot of disagreement that we have in academic space, like what actually extends your life today. But there's only one agreement. The decrease in the calories, the calories of your food, your intake, caloric intake every day by 15 to 25% extends your life by 3 to 5 years. Well, this is great. I can do that. So obviously you need to be heavily plant-based because caloric intensity of vegetables are much lower. So even if I have like a table of vegetables beside me for the dinner, I'm still going to be fine on the caloric intensity front. It's also about controlling the quality of your meat and fish. Go for organic option, not taking meat with antibiotics, with growth hormones, with E. coli bacteria. This is all pretty unhelpful for this state. Yep.
Sorry, Sergey. What about intermittent fasting and just the idea of controlling when
fasting.
You eat?
Yeah, so I'm fasting for 36 hours every week, from Monday evening to Wednesday morning. But you don't need to go as radical. You can have, like you mentioned, this window of fasting when you like fast for 16 or 18 hours, and then you take your food in a window of 6 or 8 hours. So you can do like 18 hours of fast and 6 hours of eating. So you combine like a lunch and dinner, or breakfast and lunch, whatever your optionality is or your preference is. And this is very helpful as well. There's number of fasting techniques that you can enjoy and experiment with this. And it's actually, in addition to decreasing your caloric intake, it gives the time to your body to recover.
Yeah. Are you also intermittent fasting in between? Like, so you do the 36 hour.
But so I'm doing 36 hours every week. So that's just a lot already. It's statistically minus 15% from my weekly caloric intake. So whenever I can, I just skip breakfast because I'm really like an evening person. So when I wake up, I don't have a need to have like a breakfast. So if I have an opportunity, I just skip breakfast and that's it.
Okay.
But again, it's all about just going on, in the discovery mode and discovery journey about your health. It's such a fascinating topic, and there's so many things that you can learn through that. Number 4 is your physical activity, and use your wearable, or whatever you like, and Soon, it's not going to be wearables. It's going to be our personalized healthcare devices. So embrace that, use that. So I'm using, for example, in my case, I'm using my Apple Watch. Before it was Fitbit. I'm still missing my Fitbit times to measure 10,000 steps a day. So you can integrate 10,000 steps in almost whatever activity profile you have during the day. And then on top of that, you can obviously put cardio or yoga stretching or weightlifting, whatever your preference is. And number 5, I call it peace of mind. It's just about the importance of mental health. So it's sleep, it's meditation and mindfulness exercises to decrease the level of your cortisol, the stress hormone inside your body, and sense of purpose. Give to the society more than you take, helping people around you to become a better version of themselves, and just helping others. Usually it's super cool way to find your purpose of life.
I love it, Sergey. Just to go back on the trackable device, is there any particular ones apart from the Apple Watch that's really made a quality of difference for you that you recommend anyone?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be brand, but yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, like, all we need to realize that there's all big tech brands like Samsung, Amazon, Apple, Google, they all working on some sort of wearable. And I do believe that in 10 years from now, this company is going to be the largest healthcare companies on earth. The change in healthcare will come from this angle and from a lot of startups that we're investing in. So I don't think it comes down to the choice of your device. So, I'm wearing 2, one from Amazon, one from Apple. And again, I'm just like thinking where I can put the third one, like Fitbit. I like it. I know a lot of clinics which use not only Apple, like Garmin. And I've seen an article about the big plans that Samsung has in developing and enhancing health tracking capabilities of Samsung Watch. I think Samsung was actually one of the first one to work on the new modality to measure. It was either glucose or your blood pressure, because we're still missing these 2 important features, like measuring your blood pressure and glucose. You see, I'm wearing like a separate device for that. For me, it's just a matter of consistency. Pick up your platform, which you're very comfortable with, and go for it. So this is my like a 5th day experimenting with Whoop, and I kind of like it. They tend to be like complementary, but you don't need to be like full of sensors. Just stick to one and enjoy it.
Got it. Well, Sergey, it's always an insightful and fun conversation whenever you come on. And I mean, just the things that you're doing around helping the mass, just the way you talk about it, like not serving just the few people that have a lot of money or that are famous. Like, your goal is really just to make this available for as many people as possible and to help as many people as possible. So, I mean, I think the world just thanks you for the work that you're doing. So we really appreciate you on that front. Where can people learn more about you, what you're doing? And of course, the book we're going to link down as well. Just a reminder for people, it's called The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Where else can people find out more about you, Sergey?
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, if people want to support my mission, then the easiest way to do it is to order the book. We already, we're talking a few weeks before the launch, but we're already #1 new release on Amazon in 3 categories: preventive medicine, aging, and longevity as well. So that's a great success.
Congrats.
That's a great success, even like a few weeks before the launch. Well, on sergeyyoung.com, this is the center of my universe. Feel free to visit that. We have amazing newsletter with a lot of science actually explained in simple terms for all of us. And we put together an amazing offer for someone who ordered or pre-ordered the book. Feel free to claim it. It is about access to Longevity Academy, when in the course of 12 videos, I explain the whole science and technology of longevity from today to to the long-term future, and a couple of new books, like about the book about diet, the book about kids' health, because as a father of 4, I'm fascinated by the opportunity to influence their healthy choices right from the beginning. So sergeyyoung.com is the easiest way to connect. But the book is probably the best you can do. It just in terms of one-stop reading and enjoying the subject matter.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Sergey, thank you again for coming on the show, and we really appreciate you.
Thanks, Sean. And to our audience, stay healthy and happy, please.